We're back here on the Elias Makos Show. It's our pleasure to welcome Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre onto the program once again. Mr. Poilievre, Pierre, thanks for coming back on.
Thank you for having me back.
And congrats on your by-election win, and you'll be taking your place back in the House of Commons. So should be a fun fall ahead of us. So thanks for joining us. Now, you made an announcement this morning on housing. I want to start off with the symbolism here because you made the announcement in Brampton, Ontario. I know some people would say like Brampton in some respects is like ground zero for bad immigration policy followed up by bad housing policy and just a mess of a situation when it comes to Canadians wanting to afford homes. Was there any symbolism of where you chose to make your announcement this morning?
Yes, indeed. And in fact, it was ground zero for the first Liberal housing crisis, which we've all witnessed over the last 3 years. But it's also ground zero for the second Liberal housing crisis, which is just starting now. Let me explain. The Liberals inflated housing bubble. Now they're bursting that bubble. You know, you saw prices skyrocket as out-of-control money printing and immigration drove up demand, while government bureaucrats and high taxes blocked supply. So whenever government balloons the demand for something and then blocks the supply of that same thing, the price balloons, right? Well, now, because people can't afford to pay the prices, they're collapsing. And so we have a new problem, which is that, yes, buyers can't buy, but now builders can't afford to build, and sellers can't afford to sell because they'd be selling at a loss. So everybody is in crisis. And what we're about to witness, I was just sitting down with one of the biggest developers in the region minutes ago. He said, we are on the verge of carnage, the likes of which our housing sector has never seen. And I mean never seen. The home building numbers have collapsed in the greater Toronto area. Now, you might say, why should we care? The answer is that means that there will be even fewer housing opportunities for our youth, and tens of thousands of trades workers will lose their jobs, have to go on EI, and we might never get them back. Mm-hmm. So we today were calling for an urgent reversal of Liberal housing policies to get out of the way and let builders build affordably. Get rid of the GST on all home buyers. The capital gains tax. No more capital gains tax when people reinvest the money in things like home building. Incentivize the municipalities to cut their development charges in half and slam the brakes on immigration so that we no longer overcrowd our housing market with people for whom we don't have jobs and homes.
So let me ask.
So that's the plan we're pushing.
And let me ask this, because I want to have like as an honest as possible conversation about housing in this country. One of the problems that as I see it, is that the price of homes exploded and some of it just didn't make any sense. You know, I'm a renter right now. I look at the housing market in Montreal. It hasn't been devastated to the way you're seeing in Toronto and in Southern Ontario, but I'm looking at some of the pricing. And it's astronomical, doesn't make sense compared to what Canadians' wages are. And I've heard people say, well, you can't do anything about it because you're going to hurt Canadians' retirements. Like, people are banking on their homes being worth $1 million. That's the retirement plan. Did we not make a mistake in telling people for years and years and years that their home was their retirement?
Well, the mistake was that the government inflated prices to unrealistic levels. So that right now in, for example, Vancouver, housing prices are 13 times income. So that is the worst ratio in North America. Housing costs are like basically twice in Vancouver what they are in Seattle, a comparable American city, and Seattle incomes are higher. So it is absolutely unsustainable. So Liberals said basically, don't worry, you don't have to worry about your future. You'll live in a $1 million castle. But in the end, that castle is not going to stay at $1 million because when interest rates go up, people can't afford to pay that price. But now we've got a case where home sellers are saying, I can't afford to sell because I'd be losing too much money. And still the prices are too high for our youth to buy. And our builders are saying, we can't build because the building taxes and red tape is too bad. So everybody is losing. And this is the culmination of 10 years of reckless liberal policies that are actually getting worse under Mark Carney.
But can we make housing more affordable without affecting people's retirements? I mean, we laughed when Gregor Robertson, the housing minister, said, well, we can do both. It seems impossible to me. So how are you going to try and accomplish that?
We have to bring down the cost of building. And what's driving the cost of building? Very simple. Government. The number one cost of a new home is not land, labor, or lumber. It's government taxes, fees, delays, consultants, lobbyists, lawyers that are all needed just to get the shovel in the ground. We have the second slowest building permits in the developed world. We have the highest home building taxes in the developed world. We have to cut the government costs out of home building. And then the builders will build affordable homes, not because they're nice, not because the developers are trying to be nice, but because they'll have to compete with other developers to make the cost and the price affordable. So that's why today I put forward a plan to remove the taxes and the red tape so that builders can build homes that young people can afford.
With Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, we're talking about housing affordability. It seems like there's one thing that stands in the way, and that is, well, municipalities, cities, the mayors that run those cities, you know, in this city, in Montreal, they have a plethora of rules and regulations and demands of developers. Well, how do you stop that? It seems like you butt heads with mayors in a whole bunch of cities across the country on that.
We have to. Like the Liberals have been giving hundreds of millions of dollars to municipal governments to reward them for their high taxes and red tape. In Montreal, the mayor has blocked 24,000 homes through her rules, her obstacle courses, and the other things she puts in the way of builders. My plan says to city municipalities, you do not get federal infrastructure money unless you speed up permits, free up land, and cut building taxes so that builders can build. And I'll do my part. I'll get rid of the GST off of any home under $1.3 million, and I'll get rid of the capital gains tax for anyone who sells an asset and reinvests it in home building or other productive enterprises. So I'll do my part. We all have to come together and unite this country to remove red tape and taxes and build homes that our youth can afford.
Pierre, it seems like a lot of stuff that you announced today and your policies here, axing the federal sales tax, a lot of it is a bit of a rehash of your election campaign promises. So I guess I got to ask you, as you head back to the House of Commons and you try and hold the Mark Carney government their feet to the fire, what will you do differently on that front to get some different results this time around?
Well, we're going to both oppose and propose. So we will oppose liberal policies that have caused the immigration crisis, the crime crisis, the cost of living crisis, the job loss crisis. But we'll also offer positive solutions like the ones I just described. Our four priorities are stronger take-home pay through lower taxes, unleashing more resource production, bringing down government inflation. Safe streets by locking up the criminals that Liberals have turned loose. Solid borders by hitting the brakes on immigration. And a self-reliant Canada by unlocking our resource and industrial sectors so we can bring home production to our country.
You brought up immigration.
Those are our priorities.
And you brought up immigration a couple of times in our chat here. So just on the immigration front, what are you telling Canadians about where you would put our immigration numbers and immigration programs?
So let's start with numbers. We need negative net migration over the next several years. That means the visitors that are here are going to have to leave in higher numbers than we let in new people. That's not a judgment on the people themselves. A lot of them are great people. It's just that we don't have the homes, healthcare, and jobs. we need to catch up because under the Liberals, population has grown three times faster than the supply of homes and jobs. But what do you know? Now we have a housing and job shortage. So we have to slam the brakes on the numbers. We have to crack down on the corruption and the fraud in the student, temporary foreign worker, and asylum programs. We can't have the system defrauded anymore. We have to kick fraudsters out and expel criminals who came here and are not citizens. Finally, we need to get rid of the temporary foreign worker program. This program is being abused to bring down wages. We have the worst employment numbers for youth in 30 years. We have hundreds of thousands of unemployed young people right now. And yet the government is bringing in 100,000 temporary foreign workers to take jobs that are specifically meant for our youth. And that has to end. Canadian jobs must go to Canadian workers.
Pierre, got to leave it there. You've been generous with your time this morning. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime. Thank you very much. Bye now.